Hello everyone and welcome back to my learning studio. So today we'll be learning about functions. A very important part of Python is functions. Okay. So let's start with what is a function. A function is a named block of code which runs only when we call it. Can be used many times and helps avoid writing the same code again and again. So now earlier we have seen how we can write Python statements in a procedural way which are executed one after the other, right? Now here we are talking about functions, which is a block of organized code, and this code can be reused again and again. Okay, so now for example, a function is like giving a job a name. There are multiple statements and we give a name to the job, and every time we want all those statements executed, we just call the job name. So now we'll get into details about the functions. So functions are like special paths that Python can use again and again. For example, just now I said like a set of statements are given a name. So here there are multiple things that you do as soon as you get up, and there are many things in the morning which are your routine, right? So all those routines you repeat again and again. So what does that do? It becomes redundant, right? Now in Python, what do? There are many times the same lines of codes need to be written again and again. So rather than writing all the code again and again, what do? We create them as functions. So what is function? All the lines of code that need to go will be defined under a single name. For example, your morning routine, and then every time wherever you want to use them, you will just call morning routine, and what happens? It calls the morning routine and all the statements are executed inside the function. Okay. For example, brushing my teeth, packing my bag, filling my water bottle, morning routine completed. So if you have a robot, rather than telling him daily all these tasks need to be done, what you can do? We can just program the robot that this is the set of morning routines that you need to do, and then just call morning routine. It will go and execute all these statements. Okay. So now going deeper. So what is the anatomy of a function? So how do you define it in Python? So there are two parts to functions. Okay. You need to define the function first. So defining the function is the first part and calling it is the second part. Now when you define the function, how do you define it? So Python has its rule, right? So first thing we need to use is the def keyword as shown here, def. The keyword signals that the function definition has started. This greet is the name of the function. That means whatever is the set of statements that you are executing, according to that you will give a specific name to it, right? And then open and close bracket, in which you have parameters like usernames. These are placeholders inside the function bracket, through which you will pass arguments. That means you will pass the values which will go into the function, and the actual values are passed during this call. When will you get these values? Whenever you call, you will pass the value. We'll see in the example how it is done. So if you see here, this def specifies the start of the function, definition of the function, greet is the name, this is the parameter which is the variable name name, and inside there is a message which says hello, and whatever name is passed from here, it will take that name. Okay, and the return a value which is a message. This complete message string, once it is made, it will be returned from here. So this is the block of code. Okay, now so all these values have to be all these statements have to be indented. So because Python uses white space indentation to mark the code block, we are aware of this, right? And this return statement it exits the function, and it may or may not send the data back to the caller. So if there is no return, that means it is not sending any data. But if there is return, it will send the data. So once we go deeper into it, how we will specify what type of data it is returning and all those things we'll get. Right now we'll just see the basic structure of a function. Okay, so here we have defined the core anatomy of the function. Define keyword def, the parameters, the name, function body, and return. Okay, so these are the most important parts of the function. So here we have said the definition of the function. Now, so here if you see def dance, print dance, here there is no return statement. That means there is no return whenever the dance is called. What would it do? It would just print dance. Okay, so as I said, there may or may not be a return value. So this function does not have a return value. Okay, it is none. So whenever the function is called, for example here dance, open close bracket, this is calling the function, it will go here, it will execute this, and dancing happily will be printed. Okay, next, so this can be called multiple times. As many as times it is called, this definition would be executed and the function will return the value. Why do we need functions? So imagine drawing a smiley for 20 times. If you need to do the same work again and again hundreds of times, rather than writing 100 lines of code, what would you recommend? You would always want to do one liner, right? So what would you do? Just call the function and it will write 20 times, 100 times, or whatever is defined inside the function. So it breaks complex problems into smaller parts. Reusability is there, better organization, and also easier to maintain, because as soon as if there is some error, you can easily identify it. So since the problems are smaller, hence we can identify it within the smaller section, and you can reuse it again and again. Also, the maintenance is easier. Now, going ahead, if you see, many times in the real world scenarios, there are hundreds of lines of codes that needs to be called at different places, and it needs to be rewritten. Rather than that, what you would do, you would define a function, write all the statements within that function, and just call one line of code there. So what would happen if in future, if there is any change in these lines of code, rather than going and changing it in hundreds of places where you have replicated them, you will just go into the function and change them. Is it not maintaining a less maintenance required there? So this is how we reduce the maintenance of the code. Understood? And the code is also reusable, easy to maintain, and our life is good as a programmer. Correct? Next. So here I have shown how without function the same line of code you are repeating multiple times, but here just one time you write that code and call it multiple times. So this with function, it has reduced the lines of code, much shorter and much cleaner. So as we have seen, always we have to follow certain rules. Similarly, here also in function, while writing the function names, we have to follow certain rules. So what are the rules? Let's go one by one. The rules are that the function names would start with letter or an underscore, just as shown here. Feed underscore pet. So two words that represent the number of codes, the code lines written inside. These two words represent what it does. Okay, play song, draw tree, rocket launch to, or underscore my secret. Can use a number. It may use a number. Okay, no spaces are allowed, and you should always use meaningful names. So whatever that function is actually doing, you have to identify a meaningful name which goes with those lines of code, and then give the name of the function. Okay, so here these are the bad examples. A number and then a name, a space, or a hyphen. This is not allowed in Python. Okay, moving ahead, functions can return answers. Already in the previous slides also I have actually said it may or may not return a value, right? So here we have seen define add a comma b, return a plus b. So this actually returns a value. whenever you call add 5 comma 3, what will it return? It will return 5 plus 3, which is 8, and the result will be assigned to a variable and then it would be printed. So this is actually returning a value here. So this is how we say functions can return answers. Okay, here two more examples. Favorite color, return blue. So this will return a blue whenever it is called. Here it is magic word abracadabra, and as soon as you call it will print abracadabra. Okay, so next we'll see so we have seen two types, return values and no return values. So mostly whenever there is no return, we usually give print statements within that. So what we have seen in the previous examples, we did that, right? So here what does print do? It shows something, right, on the screen. And what does return do? It actually evaluates values and it returns to wherever it is called, the function call, and then those return values can be assigned to the variables and used further. So if you see here, define say hi, it is print hi. Oh, okay. So here it is define hi, it shows print hi, and next define lucky number, it will return a number 7. So here there is no return value. So a function may or may not have a return value. Next we see placeholder functions. So earlier in one of the previous lectures also, I have shown you how we use the past statements, right? So at times what happens is we need to create certain functions and you need to keep the space without the Python giving an error, okay, while actually compiling it. So what does it do? What do we do? We just define the function name and then write a pass. So we know we need this function, but we haven't written it yet. Okay, so Python lets us use it, and what does it do? We just need to have a placeholder there. We use the statement pass to create that placeholder. Okay, so it's just a under construction function. Now, so here I've shown you certain functions, simple functions. Roar. As soon as you call this, the lion would roar. Okay, here. Candy, it will return a candy. Wave, it will return a wave. So here, this is the definition we are teaching our superhero or our computer, and here we are calling the function. So both the parts we have understood what exactly they are, right? Next, moving on, we have real life scenarios. So everywhere, all the applications that you see today, calculators, navigator, application, e-commerce, brewing a coffee, all places, everywhere, there are various functions running in the background. So what are those function calls? You can say order pizza. As soon as you order pizza, there is a function in the background that actually takes care of your call. Play music, there is a function that takes care of that activities that need to be done in the background. Take a photo, same. All the real life applications, they heavily use functions in the background. Okay, so every apps use functions thousands of times every second. So there are multiple users calling the same function and getting all those tasks done as of today. Okay, so now you understand how functions are really important. So this is a memory trick. Function is a superhero which takes care of multiple activities at the same time for multiple people, right? Just definition is what we teach, how we can teach the superhero, and function call is how we call the superhero. Return will actually return whatever the function does back to the caller, and pass is just a superhero is not yet ready, it's under construction. So types of functions. There are multiple types of functions that we can say in Python. There are built-in functions. That means already within Python they are ready-made and available. We just need to make a call. Next are user-defined functions. These are what we would define. Right now all the functions that I showed you, they are user-defined functions because we defined them, right? There is something called as Lambda functions also. These are quick shortcut helpers in Python. Recursive functions, a mirror calling itself. That means function calling itself. Built-in functions, these are pre-installed options in the Python standard library. So like whenever you're using print, it is actually a function written inside the Python library. Length, we have already used all these, print, length, type, right? All these functions we have called earlier. So basically within the Python library also, these are built-in functions that we were already using them. So these are ready-made superheroes given to us. We just call them and use them. So we simply use these functions. Next are this. So now here these are print. This is how we use them. This is just a simple scenario where we called them. But in the previous lectures, I have shown in the Visual Studio Code also how we had used print, length, right? So type also we have already used. Max also, max function store. If there is a list of values and a max will give you the maximum value, largest value. Here we have seen minimum. Similarly, minimum, it finds the smallest value. If you want to add something, you use the sum function, right? Next. So all these are actually, and many more are already available in our Python library once installed. Okay. Next is our user-defined functions. So already I have shown you how we can define user-defined functions, all the rules, how we need to do them. So we can create our own custom functions, right? Next, Lambda functions. These are also called as anonymous functions because single line but without a name. Okay, unnamed operations defined with lambda keywords for quick utilities. For example, here this is a function that defines double x star 2. But here when you say double is equal to lambda, just the keyword is used. There is no name, right, given to this function or no definition. But you have applied and it gives the same way, but in a single line, right? So this is just a shortcut. It is small, fast and one-liner. So here we have seen lambda functions, small anonymous functions, x star x, right? 5 square, this is 25. So this is a simple one-liner function call, correct? Next, recursive function. So at times what happens is you need to call the function itself. Okay, there are various problems which I will show you in the Visual Studio Code where you need to call this same function again and to get a value, right? And that is called as recursive functions. Okay, but while using recursive functions you need to take care of stack overflow and all those things that we'll go once we are deeper into recursive functions. We will understand that, the overheads. Okay, but this is also one more type of functions that are available in Python. Next, so here the functions, this is one more example where we are calling, if you see countdown number, this is the function definition, but within the function itself we are actually here, if number is greater than 1, countdown number -1. That means we are calling it again and again. The same function call is coming again and again. Okay, to print 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So once it is called, but here within itself it is continuously calling itself. Okay, a recursive function is like climbing stairs. Each step calls the next step until you reach the top. So till less than 3 it will keep on running, calling itself. Hence level 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is what is recursive function. It calls itself. Function is called within itself. Okay, so which function should we use? Now, built-in types already made by Python, so we don't need to again replicate those, right? We can use those. The ones that are not available within the library and which need custom business scenarios, we create user-defined functions for them. Where there is tiny one-liner helpers, we use lambda. And if there is a scenario where you need to call itself, it is recursive. Okay. Now, built-in, borrow a ready-made tool, user-defined, build your own tool, Lambda, take a shortcut, and recursive, look into two mirrors. It keeps calling itself. So this is what it is all about functions. So now you will see key benefits of functions. So functions make your code smarter, cleaner, and stronger. So always think functionally and code professionally. So whenever you use functions, it eliminates redundancy. You don't need to write the same code again and again. It improves readability also because it is smaller parts. It is easier to understand and cleaner to understand. Even testing is even easier. Debugging code gets simplified because of the individual separation of the code. So that's all for today. Thankful, grateful, blessed. Always remember, every expert programmer was once a beginner. So keep coding, keep building, keep growing, and keep learning.